Well, I was at ABC, and one of the guys who worked for me at ABC was originally general manager of WLS-TV in Chicago. Brandon worked for him, and he says, "I want you to meet somebody." So he had Brandon fly in, and I liked him enough that I got him a job in the current program department, where he supervised Eight Is Enough and $6 Million Man and a handful of other shows. He was young. He was in his 20s. Kind of reminded me a little bit of me when I started. And he was working in promotion in Chicago, and that's where I started, in Chicago. So, and he did very well enough that he ultimately, Dick Ebersol was the head of comedy at NBC and offered him a job, and he took the job at NBC, little realizing that shortly thereafter that I would end up at NBC. So he ultimately became the head of comedy at NBC, and then I promoted him. The guy who was running NBC Entertainment, whose name is Mike Weinblatt, was a very nice guy and everything, but he just didn't have the showmanship I thought was necessary at that point, and so I moved him into another area, more on the business side, NBC Enterprises, I think it was, and I brought Brandon in. I saw that he was a creative broadcaster, that he had great creative instincts, but he also knew about broadcasting. He worked at television stations, and he knew how the whole thing worked, which is very important. And I thought he would be good, and he also would listen. He was young enough that if I asked him to do something, he would question it, but ultimately would do it. And he was very, very loyal, and that's what I was looking for. And initially for the first year or so, he was like my programming assistant. Because I didn't just say, go wave a wand and fix it. I was very much involved in all of it. But, left to his own devices, he was very good. I mean, he was the one that shepherded Hill Street Blues. He was the one that ultimately shepherded Real People, and got us involved with some comedy shows like Give Me a Break with Nella Carter and Facts of Life, the spin-off of Different Strokes, and so that he started to make things happen. He and, the people who worked for him ultimately brought the Charles Brothers and the director, Jim Burrows, who formed a company to NBC, and that resulted in Cheers. He was the one that made the commitment, major script order for St. Elsewhere. These were all the things that were happening while I was still there, but under his aegis. So it all started to move in the right direction. And he was very, very good. And Grant Tinker, to his credit, when he came in there, recognized it, and he kept him. And he really blossomed.